Cheers guys, Epix911, welcome to the Elitist Geek. In this show I want to talk about a game called Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. For those of you who like Nintendo and or are RPG fans, you've probably heard of it. This is the port to the 3DS of the successful in Japan Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii, which then after a lot of protesting came out in North America, but still it was a bit of a gong show release, and I could just go on and on about how much localization pisses me off, but those of you who've watched more than a few of my videos know I've kind of covered that, and I'll probably go into it again at some point, but not a huge localization fan. For those who don't know, localization is basically translating a game from one language into another. So for example, for your local market. So for example, Xenoblade Chronicles originally would have had all the voiceovers done in Japanese. Localizing the game means coming up with, English translations and English voiceovers. So English translation for text and voiceover for anything that's voice. Now, me personally, when I watch anime, I'm the kind of guy who, I don't know what other people do, but me personally, I like watching subs over dubs. My problem with dubs is a lot of times they use the same actors. It's a pretty small circle of actors, and you start hearing the same voices on other anime. That's one thing. Second, the subtlety of the spoken language versus the written. I find that if it's, a good subgroup that does these subs, it's a lot closer to the spoken Japanese than the voiceovers are. At least that's been my experience. And that's not to say there's not good anime with good, English voiceovers. But anyways, with regards back to Xenoblade Chronicles, what I couldn't understand at the time was it came out in England and Europe before we got our North American version. And unless you are really, really lacking in comprehension, there's no reason for that UK English localization to not have been the norm for the world. I mean, I'm in Canada. I've watched British shows my whole life, but even family members who haven't can understand, the, what do they call it? British, not standard. There's a term for it, which I know, but I've forgotten right now. Anyways, that a lot of the actors affect when they do voiceovers. And it's easily comprehensible by people living in the States or Canada or Australia or New Zealand or South Africa or other countries that speak English. As long as it's their first language, there should be no issue with that. I mean, we're not doing something in Lowland Scots here or, thick Irish brogue, this, or Welsh even. It's standard English. There's no reason to have North American English accents, which themselves range. So that just drives me nuts. So anyways, they have the UK English on here and ended up releasing it in North America for the 3DS anyways. So what was the point of that? Don't freaking know. No clue. But anyways, it is a game that, like I said, was released on the Wii. I beat it on the Wii. But one of the things, the main reason I wanted to do this show is for those of you who are not aware of emulation. Now, small disclaimer before I go into the topic. If you live in a country that has archaic copyright rules and emulation is verboten, where your ISP gets you into trouble for downloading something, please don't do it. Or if you do, it's on you, it's not on me. I live in Canada, and our copyright laws are strict where they need to be and lax where I also think they need to be. For example, not much of an issue here in Canada if you're collecting ROMs from games that are long since gone in the arcade, etc. Again, not legalizing piracy. You guys can clearly see behind me, I purchase the vast majority of my games. But a game that I own on the Wii, I'm going to have no problem saying I played on the Dolphin emulator. Here's the reason. I have a nice TV. The Wii is not 1080p. Games on the Wii that upscale to a 1080p TV look absolutely terrible. They do not look good at all. I got about 15, 20 hours into the game on the Wii before I said, the hell with it, let's see if it's compatible on Dolphin. It was compatible on Dolphin, and ended up being a vastly better gaming experience because of the 1080p. There's even texture packs by fans for certain games, Twilight Princess, and I think Xenoblade Chronicles had it too, although I didn't benefit from that when I played it. But if you've got a beefy gaming rig like mine, and you own the game, and I think that's the key for me personally, for my own justification, where I feel zero guilt, is if I own the game. And in this case, I ended up buying it again for the 3DS, just because there's no way to get it from the Wii onto 3D. You can't share like with the Vita. So for me, owning it on the 3DS, owning it on the Wii, zero problem downloading the ROM and playing it on Dolphin. You can play at even higher than 1080p if you use Dolphin. You can play at 4K if you've got the beefy computer to support it. Textures, unless they're fan packs, are obviously going to be the same, but your lighting effects, your anti-aliasing, the jagged edges that you see on the lines of graphics, anisotropic filtering, the fidelity of the textures themselves, all of that can be made better with an emulator. I'll leave some links down below for the emulator. Again, it's at your own risk and your own peril and your own personal moral compass, wherever that sits. I'm not going to talk about where to get games. It's pretty obvious. Once you have Dolphin, you can probably figure the rest out. But it's a fantastic emulator. So, long-winded way of saying, if you own this on the 3DS or on the Wii, and you're looking for it to be just a bit grander of an experience, play it on Dolphin. If you've got a beefy machine, crank the motherfucking snot out of it. Play it like it was meant to be played, because it's a fantastic game that closely mimics the feel of an MMO, but as a single-player experience. So, not so much of a review of the game as I just want to talk about it, and, to get the whole experience, I bring up the emulator angle. What about the 3DS version itself? Well, let's talk a little bit about that. How does it fare compared to the Wii? Speed-wise, it's not bad. It's not quite as peppy. There's a bit of a slowdown. You can definitely tell that this game required the beefier new 3DS. It would not have been possible to put this on the old machine. Not a chance in hell. Just wouldn't work. The textures themselves are also what I used to call a little bit more pea soupish, in that they don't have the definition and the detail. They're not as high res as the textures on the Wii version. Some come very close, but some are way off. Faces, the people aren't quite as advanced as the Wii. Textures in the distance, you can see shortcuts were taken to render that long view distance, right? Because the view distance in some of the valleys is pretty damn impressive, even on the 3DS. But you could tell they had to compensate somewhat, and they did that by reducing the resolution of the textures and the complexity of the textures by quite a bit. I would liken it to playing GTA 5 on a PlayStation 3 and then playing the same game on PlayStation 4 or even on the PC. That's the kind of difference you're talking about. So, for me, I first beat GTA 5 on the PS3, thought the graphics were fine. So, if you haven't played this on the Wii or on Dolphin, and it's your first go at the game, while you're not seeing the prettiest version of the game, you're going to be fine with it, because it blows pretty much all the other games out of the water. I would say the game that comes closest in terms of rendering, vistas, and complexity would probably be Monster Hunter 4. I think it comes very close. But Xenoblade Chronicles is heads and shoulders above other games. And if you own yourself a new 3DS and you like RPGs, it would be a disservice to not purchase this game. It was designed it wasn't designed specifically for it, but it was able to be ported specifically because of the power that this unit wields. So, mind you, it could have also been ported to the Vita and probably would have looked even better. But I digress. On the 3DS, it's fine. If you have played it and you're looking for a handheld experience, because anyone who's played this game and beat it, you know there's a lot to do in this game. You could easily spend over 100 hours in this game if you do all the side quests, go about the game a little bit differently than you may have the first time around. So I would definitely recommend this game if it's your very first go at Xenoblade Chronicles, but I would still recommend it, albeit maybe wait till it's used at a GameStop or Willow Video or whatever you have near you. Or if you're as gung-ho about RPGs as I am, and it's one of your favorite genres or your favorite genre, and you love Xenoblade Chronicles, do what I did. Go out and buy the game. It's fantastic. But also take a look at it on Dolphin. I think you'll really enjoy the experience. Like I said, I'll leave the link below. Let me know what your take is on emulation. How do you guys feel about ROMs? Arcade ROMs versus ROMs for platforms that are basically out still. What does your moral compass tell you? No judgments from me. Like I said, some people might not agree with my stance, and that's fair. I totally accept that, and your opinion is valid, right? We all have a slightly different moral compass. But if I own a game, zero issues. Zero issues at all. As always, guys, again, no beer, protein shake. Cheers. Let me know your thoughts. Till the next video.